Okay, I think I was on I think that was when I went to make a bike ride. Which or on Friday.
Hey, bro. Listen, you can take off that studs bookmark off the top, all right? And you can go ahead and just use that for about a year.
RIP. I think that goes directly to like the 2018 stats or something. RIP. All right. The weekly journal article review. This one actually chose because it's by Mike Reynolds. He actually presented. He gave like a 5-minute talk at ABS on it. So again, if you want to see that presentation, it'll be uploaded to the ABBS YouTube page. You'll be able to view it there and check it out. He gave some like info on it, but this piece, have either of you seen this? Like previously, Caravan, you said you hadn't.
I had not. Also, I looked up ABBS YouTube, but I accidentally typed abs YouTube, so I got some fire 10-minute workouts on my other screen.
Nice.
I haven't read this in depth, but I saw it a little bit. One quick question: what's an MPH?
Miles per hour.
Interesting.
I thought you were trolling, dude.
No, dude.
Oh,
Monica,
that I don't know, but I have looked that up previously.
Oh, yeah. I thought MPH as a title. Yeah.
Jeez, dude. Come on. You guys are just insulting me left.
That sounds a little bit Eastern European, dude. Monica Drogo sounds a little. I think she might be my cousin.
I think it might be my cousin. It's some sort of public health thing. I want to say Master of Public Health. Anyone want to Google it real quick?
Sorry to. Yeah, I'll hit it.
Just Google that real quick. Anyways, Reinhold presented this. This came out. This is less than a month old. I want to say it was like the end of June.
You said Reinhold presented this?
Reinhold presented this end of June 2020 is when this came out. With obviously working with the usual batch of people who are just pumping out biomechanics research and some weighted ball stuff. Glenn Fleissig on the board with Dr. Andrews, Macrina. And yeah,
dude, I forgot where you screen share. I kept trying to scroll down on this.
Drogas. Yeah. So this was they've done a few pieces on weighted ball research. Like there was a 6-week study, and then a few others like that, looking at velocity increase, injury rates, all those things. This is actually really interesting. I'm pretty stoked about like looking at the acute effects of like implements and training modalities. So the kind of like TLDR, which you can get from the abstract 2, was 3 sessions: overload weighted ball session, normally weighted ball session, and an underload. And it was randomized conditions. You went in, you had internal and external passive range of motion tested, went through the throwing session, and then it tested it again. So, and that was like randomized to see the differences. I think it was 16 participants, high school baseball players. So yeah, it came in, measure your IR and ER, throw, whether the underload throwing was 5, 4, and 2 ounce balls. The overload throwing was 5, 6, and 9, and then the extreme overload was 5, 16, and 32 ounce balls. So that would be like the baseball, the green ball, and the black ball, I think, on those 32 ounce.
2 pounds. No, the black. Oh, the green ball.
The green ball is 16.
Yeah.
We're all 16.
Yeah. So that's pretty.
The green ball is 1 pound. The green ball's 1 kilogram.
No,
the green ball is 1,000 grams.
Black ball is 1 kilogram. The green ball is 450.
No.
Yeah. Green ball is 450.
Blue ball is 450.
Oh, the blue ball is 450. The green ball
is 1,000.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. You'll cut the sport out.
So that would actually be So that would actually be the baseball, blue ball, and green ball. 5, 16, and 32. Yeah. Yeah. So the they came in. It was like a standard warm up. I think the warm up was pretty limited from when I saw the methods. It was like standard TheraBand warm up, and then 15 reps at each movement, and then 10 throws at 45 feet, 10 throws at 60 feet, 10 throws at 90, and then they went into the throwing session, which was either with the underloads, the overload, or the extreme overload. That consisted of 3 throws with each ball at 100% intensity from knee, rocker, and run and gun. So that's how they went about it. After that session, they then measured IR and ER again, and I'll just scroll down to the results. Actually, you guys see these results?
Wait. Do you mind scrolling up right before the? I had one question. I figured I want to ask before. Do you guys scroll this a little bit lower? So yeah, right here. Do you guys know what the Chorusoid stabilization technique is?
Yeah, Chorusoid is basically just what he's doing with his left and right arm right there. Guy on the left, right here.
Yeah.
Stabilizing it to like standardize the measurement.
Is there any negative? Does that leave much inner tester reliability, or is that pretty standard? Okay.
That's pretty standard, yeah. Actually, I do want to point out one thing I really liked about the methods and including this is this section right here. Reliability of range of motion testing was assessed in a pilot group of 10 participants in a previous study. So they took measurements to get like the ICCs and make sure that there wasn't going to be any like reliability issues with the IR and ER measurements. So that's really cool. I think that's pretty tight, especially when working with a goniometer. Like I'm always skeptical of like range of motion and like FMS data from like just someone throwing a goniometer up there. So that's pretty sweet.
I think as far as I remember from the goniometer and range of motion studies that I've looked at, the Intra rater reliability is pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Like the same person will measure pretty consistently.
Yep. Yeah. And I think they mentioned that there was like a team of 2 or a team of 3 that did it the whole time as far as these measurements. So if there is inter rater reliability, then it's probably there's only like 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean their main hypothesis was that as the ball weight increased, that external rotation range of motion was going to go up, and that's what they saw in the dominant arm. External rotation significantly increased in the overload group by 3.3 degrees, and also in the extreme overload group by 8.4 degrees. Also, an interesting one in the extreme overload,
non-dominant
ER. So glove arm ER went up almost 3 degrees, which was significant, which I think is like very very odd.
So they basically got each week they would get measured again, then you immediately throw
3 weeks of testing, and they would do one of these each week. But and
then test right after.
Randomized.
Yeah, they would test right after.
They tested before and after each session.
Yeah,
so it was each day.
Okay.
So because they were looking at the acute effects.
Right.
Yeah. So
what do you got? The on the regular overload, the before mean is like
really high,
way higher than the other ones.
Yeah,
that was significantly different, right?
Yeah, almost significantly different than the others as far as just before goes.
Yeah, that kind of concerns me. If like before there could be that much of a difference, and like that is bigger than the magnitude of difference they saw afterwards.
Yeah, and between it's also the smallest standard deviation in the before groups.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, no, I think that's pretty interesting. Thought that was a point. I mean, in the discussion or in the results in the discussion they talk about it, like they confirm their hypothesis, which is like what you would expect, right? Like you are gonna throw like a heavier ball. I would anticipate some like acute effects. Like I think I would anticipate that in any movement with putting like an overload implement somewhere, like increasing acutely some range of motion. Their conclusion as far as like the interpretation was right here. there may provide a neurophysiological desensitization of the GTO mechanoreceptors, Golgi tendon.
I know only 3 of the words in that sense.
Yeah, so it's like Golgi tendon organs, mechanoreceptors may decrease, protective mechanism of the shoulder, internal rotators. GTO, like the most common example of that is your like when you go to the doctor and you get your reflexes tested on your knee. You know, they like tap your knee.
Yeah.
Kick your knee
It's like
out.
a stretch reflex.
That's what the GTO is basically. So like when that's your like knee, that like tendon is getting stretched and it's your body's like, oh, we're hitting like end range of motion. Like we need to tense up. We're going to like blow something out, you know? So that's what that mechanism.
Dude, when I was like 10 or 12 and I go to a doctor and they do that, I thought it'd be badass to try to suppress my knee hopping out, because I didn't realize, I didn't like fully process what they were doing it for. So I'll do my very best to suppress any sort of reaction. So they just tap my knee with a thing and I would just like hold it because I'd like see it coming and they'd be like, oh, okay, you got no reflex. And I'd be like, oh, that's not that sick. But
it's like, oh, nice, dude, you're broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
I think
funny.
I mean, the other thing they noted in their conclusion, which is a good point, use of heavier balls should be incorporated with caution, as both increased shoulder rotation injury rates have been observed. The reference for that being their previous 6-week study, which showed the like people using the overload implements had injuries, and range of motion should be monitored. I'm still not entirely sold on like I think if you can, yeah, range of motion should be monitored during the implementation of these programs. I think that like I guess the workout that they went through, it seemed pretty excessive to me compared to what we do. But if there is anyone out there using weighted balls in that kind of like capacity at that level, they should probably like tone it down, especially if they're not onboarding properly. Like there are not going to be any high schoolers that show up to Driveline, throw 10 throws at 45 feet, 10 throws at 70, 10 throws at 90, and then just go straight into 100% green ball, you know, running guns, rockers, knee throws like that. That's just not going to happen. And like in no way should anyone out there be doing that. It should be like properly onboarded, on-ramped into them, and hope that this study is, you know, basically just more potential like evidence and argument for that. One thing that I would like to see that I'm still not sure on is all of this is based around passive range of motion in IR and ER, like on the table, and it's not looking at active range of motion in the throw. So I would really like to see if there was an 8-degree increase in passive range of motion for dominant external rotation, we're really interested to see if there was also going to be active external rotation increases, like kinematically in the pitching throw. That would be what I want to say, because I don't know if they
didn't mocap anything then,
like
huh?
all the time when we do like movement screen to biomechanics data or like you know, range of motion to biomech, we just don't see the carryover from table to pitching mound that you'd expect.
And we're going to be doing a study, like an actual controlled study on that once we get the lab fully rolling. Again, I think it's going to happen in the next few weeks, but.
So those are kind of like my main thoughts on it initially. I think it's going to be really tough always. With,
when did this get published?
The 20th of June, I think. So it was
nice.
Less than a month old. I think it's always tough with these, with the methodology. It just seems like pretty consistently the methodology is a bit more aggressive than anything we do in gym. So it's really hard to take the results from this and apply it to what we do. And I think you're going to run into that all the time. I think like that's got to be pretty common in like exercise science journals and like strength and conditioning journals in general, which is just another reason why if you're a reader of articles and stuff like these, like very important to understand the methodology and the programming that went into the study, because like we could put someone through an insane like squat workout, right? We just do some like 15 sets of 20 at like an absurd, percentage of
that's what
maximum,
I do. That's what I do.
And then we could show that like there's some sort of like negative effect or positive, but then in the title of the abstract, it's just like effects of, squats on
heavy volume,
lower half range of motion, right? Like the implement in this instance, the weighted ball is just that. It's just a modality. It's just an implement. How it's used is way more important than what's being used. And so, there could always be something in there to kind of like look at that. So, in general, and obviously, like, I mean, we're pretty biased because we sell job, but in general, like, I disagree with demonizing or targeting the implement or the modality as opposed to how it's implemented, the programming around it. I think that's a much bigger point that we need to pay attention to. And it's always going to be a tough thing with studies because there's no real like standard program out there that's like throw this ball this many times at this type of intensity. That kind of thing.
There's a couple things. One thing that
you got so loud.
Dang,
you got
dude.
so loud.
Me?
Relax, dude.
I'm talking normal volume, dude.
I think
not,
your mic
just got super weird.
Yeah.
It's just not ASMR anymore, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Continue.
One thing with goniometry that worries me a little bit is that like the tester has full control over the results. So they are the ones that are measuring the range of motion, but they're also the ones putting you into that range of motion. So like, it would be easy if you were to have
that's a good point.
Like, if you were to like think or expect this outcome, it would be really easy, even implicitly, to bias how much you put somebody into exactly. You could stop at some point, or you could just put a little bit more force or allow a little bit more like upper like torso movement to like look like there's more ER. I'm not saying that's what happened. That's something that worries me with goniometry. But then the other thing with your comment about you'd like to see active like in the throw external rotation or shoulder rotation range of motion, and something with these results are going to be published in studies that we have that are currently in the writing phase, but we haven't found any significant difference in maximum external rotation between ball weights in either of our controlled studies on it. So we didn't measure passive range of motion during these studies before or after, but we did. One of the metrics that we look at is maximum external rotation. So that something you can factor in as well.
Point about the goniometer. Have you ever used one, Caravan?
No.
I think
no. I mean, I think I've had my ROM tested. I think actually Jager's likely our first guest. Now that I'm looking at the results after Lindley's retweet. Jager's still holding on to. I think the gap closed a little between Jager's and Dan though. About a 4% lead rather than a 6%. Yeah, I think Jager's used one on me.
Yeah.
I think I got 12 degrees of motion.
Yeah,
range of motion.
When you're doing it, it's kind of like Lindley. You've used the goniometer a few times. Yeah. It's just like a weird.
You just keep pushing and stuff, or what?
You can, you could kind of like keep going, kind of a thing. Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough,
Do you think there's any reason besides just like they probably didn't want to mocap everyone? Is there any other reason they wouldn't have mocapped?
They probably just would. I think their main thing was they wanted to look at passive ERIR.
And one thing that is also worrisome about that specific case is that they did a previous study. They found there was a change in external rotation. So they were already hypothesizing like a one-tailed difference between the two. So like they're already like the experimenters kind of knew that they were what they were expecting to find that. So
yeah. And the other thing that I will say is that like the more external rotation equals injury risk increase is something that we don't see in our data set, and I'm skeptical that there's enough evidence out there still for that. I understand that was a big conclusion of the 6-week study was like external rotation increasing and the injury rates increase there as well. But internally, we're just consistently seeing that as active MER goes up, velocity and their efficiency increases well relative to that velocity. This whole injury rates thing, and we've mentioned this a bunch of times, is just super, super tough. You just don't have the injury rate, and there's so many things that can go into it. And I'm gonna always be skeptical of this one thing is why this person got hurt, and that's from like me and my past 2 injuries. Like it's gonna be really hard for me to ever just like see enough of the data and be like, okay, yes, this one acute metric and reason that the range of motion of external rotation on the table is the reason why elbow popped, shoulder popped, that kind of. That's a far claim for me.
Kind of on that topic, Dr. Oliver at Auburn University, she's in charge of that biomechanics lab.
Yeah.
She presented on some research that they did in softball, and they used pain as the independent variable. So like they would bin athletes by they've had or they struggle with upper extremity pain or they struggle with lower extremity pain.
Like measuring it on a scale of 1 to 10 or just binary?
I think it's binary, but like I still do think that pain, like subjective feedback, is a valuable tool in the whole injury risk or injury like conversation. Because having some, like, it's hard to quantify it. So like doing it subjectively with surveys or whatever might be one of the better alternatives or a good start for like trying to figure out some of the movements or some of the red flag like things that athletes are going through.